Ladies and gentlemen, my name's Paul, and in this RegameTech.com video we're going to be discussing and analysing tech news which, as usual, popped up over the past 24 or so hours. We're going to start things out with the AMD Zen 2/Ryzen 3000, as well as the Navi leaks that we saw yesterday. I was discussing them at length in a fairly in-depth video, so I'll link that in the description of this video if you need a refresher. But I want to give a small update because in my opinion, it's more likely than ever that these leaks are inaccurate. There's a couple of reasons that I've come to this conclusion. The first is that I was discussing this very topic with the retired engineer. For those unfamiliar, he is, well, exactly what his name implies. He is actually a former designer of motherboards and integrated systems. He's now a business person and kind of focuses on investments and so on. He's a really cool guy, and he did a lot of block diagrams and initial analysis of the Ryzen 3000, Threadripper 3, Rome, and a lot of other stuff. And he and I got talking again last night / this morning on Twitter, and in his opinion, the leaks are most likely inaccurate. Now, there's a couple of reasons that raise red flags for him. For one, the number of compute units, assuming that they're aggressively clocked. He questions whether they're going to have enough bandwidth of DDR4 memory. And also, much like a lot of you said, along with myself, the clock speeds are really suspicious. 5.1 gigahertz, particularly for the Threadripper 3 series, it's a little ambitious. And, you know, if you actually look back on it as well, the Threadripper series is actually clocked more aggressively than some of the Ryzens, which also is rather weird to me. Furthermore, I actually got talking to my source again. And just a quick reminder, he is not working directly for AMD. He instead works with one of their largest partners. And for those asking, no, I was not required to sign any NDA. He and I were actually talking on a completely unrelated topic to begin with. And then we actually got kind of just talking as friends / casual acquaintances, and then we actually kind of accidentally got onto the Zen 2 Matassi topic, and then he released some information to me, and then obviously he said, well, as long as you keep my name and company anonymous, I can tell you, you can release that information. Now, to him, I actually asked him about these slides. I, forwarded the information to him, and he said he has not heard of this stuff. I'm not saying that this factually means that these leaks are inaccurate. It would mean, though, that AMD, at least for this moment, is keeping this documentation, this process information within their own company, and they have not shared it basically they have not shared it outside of AMD. So that's how it is. I'm giving you this information because I feel it's fairest to you, and, well, you can do with it as you wish. And once again, yeah. But anyway, we're going to move over from Zen 2 topic to another Zen 2 topic. This one actually, though, concerns the Xbox, more specifically the next generation Xbox, also known as Scarlet. As a quick reminder then, currently AMD are providing the chips for both Sony and Microsoft for the PlayStation 4, the PlayStation 4 Pro, the Xbox, and the Xbox One X. I'm discounting things such as the Slim consoles in there, along with the various 1 billion different updates to those systems. So, one of the early reports with the PlayStation 5 was that AMD were tasked once again to create the chips inside those consoles. The report was it was some type of Zen processor. The early report from I don't remember the chap's name, but he was some internal worker inside of Sony. I know that's super accurate, but I'm saying this from memory just to get everyone up to speed. And basically, he was doing some debugging of the system and checking some of the features and so on, and it looked like it was an early version of Zen, most likely the original version of Zen. But since it is probable from other leaks that it's going to be Zen 2, and we all know about the Forbes article that was published, supposedly, if you believe it, Lisa Su took a lot of the engineering resources from Vega, and she thrown it over to Navi along with the Zen 2 architecture. I can tell you from a couple of other sources that I've spoken to that this is most likely accurate. They've not given me any specifics, so I don't know the timelines, but they've basically nodded when I've said that to them. And not literally nodded, but they've kind of just made implications that is accurate. But once again, it was Forbes that originally broke that article, and I'm not saying it is 100% true, but that's what the implication was. So there were some questions then, what are Microsoft going to do? We all know that the Xbox Scarlet, Microsoft are supposedly wanting the system to be absolutely monstrously powerful. As Phil Spencer himself said, it's not just one system, it's actually a family of devices, and one of those is almost certainly to be a streaming-based system. Also, a couple of days ago, I reported on the fact that Microsoft are currently in talks, allegedly, with other software studios. The purpose, of course, is to buy more studios and to bring them into the Microsoft family. Specific names for studios was not given, but the rumor is that it's going to be studios that would not surprise you too much and also be like, what, really? They've been bought out? Okay then, wasn't expecting that. But anyway, the latest rumours, and these come from Brad Sams, who is one of the editors over at Forret.com. He claims his sources have placed the Xbox Scarlet to launch in 2020. Moreover, Microsoft are targeting 4K 60 FPS. They also allege that the processor inside of this thing is going to be based upon the Zen 2 architecture. Furthermore, it's going to have a next-gen GPU. Now that wording is really interesting to me because it makes me wonder whether it's Navi inside of the Xbox inside of the Xbox Scarlet. The reason I question that is because if you actually look at the slides for the roadmap of AMD, you know that we've got Polaris and you've got Vega and then you've got Navi and then you've got the next gen, also known as Arcturus. So it's possible, and this is speculation on my part, this is not me putting words into the chap's mouth, but it's possible that that is actually going to be the architecture for the next generation Xbox. Another reason I believe that might be the case, and once again, this is speculation, is because if Navi's, let's say, research was partly paid for by Sony, Sony might say to themselves, well, gee, okay, sure, let's give that information and technology to Microsoft. That seems like a swell idea. No, of course they wouldn't do that. And they probably learned quite a lot through the whole Cell debacle. For those who don't know, the Cell processor was based upon, of course, PowerPC cores. And it's kind of weird, the story, and you should read about it yourself because it's way too complex and in-depth for this video. But the synopsis is that there were a couple of competing teams. Microsoft tasked the same company basically working with Sony to create the processor for the Xbox 360. And basically what they did is they took the actual processor cores, not the synergistic processor elements, but they actually took the main CPU cores and then they basically just scaled them up, increased the number of cores, and then created the Xbox 360's CPU. I'm really simplifying the story for the purpose of time, but there you go. So most likely Sony are like, well, we don't want that to happen again. If they did indeed, and once again, this is an allegation by Forbes, pay for a good portion of the research for Navi, they probably don't want that that technology to fall into the hands of Microsoft. So you can probably speculate that Microsoft may go for the next generation GPU, but whether that's possible or not in terms of manufacturing dates and whatever else, who knows. It's also possible it's not actually any of these GPUs. It's possible Sony and Microsoft are going for a completely different architecture. Maybe it's actually one that we've not seen, but my money is that the PlayStation 5 is using Navi and that the Xbox One successor is going to either use Navi, or it's going to be using Arcturus, or a custom chip, which is kind of a halfway house between those two things, which would allow basically for Microsoft to legally use that chip and not get in trouble from Sony, or rather AMD getting in trouble from Sony. While we're on the subject of graphics cards, we might as well discuss some Nvidia news. According to the website WCCF Tech, they claim that Nvidia will launch the mobility range of 20 series cards on January the 6th, CES. According to them, we're going to see the 2070 launch and possibly the 2080 Max Q on that date, but it might launch a little later. There are also a couple of other SKUs which, according to their sources, we will also see Nvidia announce. This includes the 2060 and the 2050 Ti, although the wording here is rather interesting because they did not specifically state that it was the RTX 2060 or what have you. There have been some other rumours and benchmarks though that have emerged for the 2060 at the very least, which does seem to indicate, assuming that rumour is genuine, that it is indeed the RTX 2060. And as I said in that video, to my mind it makes a lot of sense because the RTX technology is not just like, oh, it's ray tracing, it's also DLSS and all of this other stuff. And if you have a lower end SKU, like for example the RTX 2060 or the 2060, DLSS actually makes so much more sense for that because it means that you're going to have the highest frame rate. I mean, you could run like DLSS 1440p, which would be more than achievable in basically any title. We did do a actual analysis on DLSS on an RTX 2070 and an RTX 2080 Ti, and that was on Final Fantasy 15 benchmark. And what we did is basically compare the various cards with different resolutions of like 1440p DLSS, 4K DLSS, and also the native resolution it would have run on those GPUs along with their predecessor Pascal. And well, the results speak for themselves. It is really an impressive technology. It's not flawless, it's not quite as good as native 4K, but unless your eye is like that to the screen and you're really being, picky, I would say that I would much rather play at like 4K DLSS than 4K native in most instances because the performance jump, at least to me, and everyone's different, but to me, the performance leap is way worth it. And honestly, it's probably the reason that I would suggest Turing is a great buy. I'm still not 100% convinced on ray tracing yet. The performance jumps that we've seen with Battlefield 5 have been really impressive, but to me, it's DLSS and a couple of other feature sets that are really interesting me. So we'll have to wait and see how that goes. But either way, if you were thinking about getting a laptop at Christmas, I'm just informing you. I'm not saying change your plans, but it is something you should be aware of. And a small piece of news actually concerning the older cards, the Pascal range of cards. Zotac accidentally, or accidentally on purpose, depends on your perspective, have confirmed that the Pascal-based GTX 1070 now is available in GDDR5X. So obviously that means that it should theoretically clock through the stratosphere. You should have a lot more memory bandwidth available. How well that's going to function and whether it's going to be worth it to you, depending on the price premium for your particular retailer, or whether it's better for you to go for like another card entirely, that's down to you. But once again, it is quite an interesting thing, and it does show that there is still A, interest in getting for people to actually buy these darn things, and B, Nvidia really do have an excess inventory of Pascal cards, and clearly that's going to take a while to filter out. While I've got you here, I might as well also go through a couple of leaks concerning Intel. This is not as big as, I don't know, Comet Lake or anything like that, but the company are working on an 8-core, 16-thread NUC chip, and this is thanks to a couple of roadmaps that have emerged from PC Eva, which basically what we can see is that the chips will arrive in 2019/2020. The NUC platform is codenamed Ghost Canyon X, which is a Coffee Lake Refresh H, and would receive 8 cores, 6 cores, and finally a quad-core SKU. And we also see Frost Canyon, which is going to be based upon Comet Lake U, and this will just be a 25-watt part. And the final piece of news, because quite frankly I'm bloody excited, is that Capcom are not done with the Resident Evil remakes. And there has been some confirmation, although not official, that Resident Evil 3 is actually receiving a remake as well. As you're probably aware, Resident Evil 2 is going to be launched very soon, and I think it's undoubtable that it's going to be a really, really big win for Capcom. Quite frankly, I am almost drooling at the possibility of playing this game. As a very slight aside, and getting off topic, I actually remember playing this Resident Evil 2 back in the day on my PlayStation 1 and just absolutely loving the game. I'm not exactly a Resident Evil expert, but I did unlock Tofu and do all of the crazy stuff. And I remember the first time I was going through with like one of the B missions, I literally missed like the time requirement by like 5 minutes. No matter what I did, I just could not get the additional time because I screwed up a little bit at the beginning. So even though I was like rerunning it a couple of times to get it faster, the fastest I could get is like 5 minutes from that save, and it was just really frustrating. So anyway, yeah, and later on I did do it. So according to the rumor, which comes from a Reset Era moderator, his name is Dusk Golem. He makes an announcement midway down the Resident Evil 2 remake should Capcom go with Code Veronica or Resident Evil 3. And he said that Resident Evil 3 remake is already in development. And Golem explains that he got his information from sources within inside of Capcom. Now, he has actually given accurate information before. This is not just some random dude on the forum. He has actually confirmed, for example, the fact that Not a Hero DLC was being created for Resident Evil 7 before it was actually launched. And he said that I'm keeping my lips sealed and everything else, so don't ask, but Resident Evil 3 Remake is in full development. I think that beyond that, they're waiting to see how Resident Evil 2 and 3 perform, but Remake 2 is almost assuredly going to perform well. Yes, I think that's actually accurate. Personally, and leave your comments down below, I'm curious, Resident Evil Code Veronica is the one that I really want a remake of. There was a friend of mine that would regularly come around my house, and he and I would do like speed runs of Code Veronica. And it was kind of funny because the Dreamcast actually separated the game into two halves. Like the first half was obviously on one disc, the second half was on another disc. And he had the Dreamcast version, and I had the PlayStation 2 version. So he actually played the game and completed it before I did. But I completed it by myself, and then he and I would like, you know, kind of meet up frequently for like several months and like run the game. And we got to the point where we didn't actually save once, and we would just like run through the game and try and get like the fastest times possible. And there was a really funny moment for me. Basically, we were both doing the run, and like on the first disc, you play up until like the point where you've got the first boss on the plane. That's what I'm going to say. And my friend Steven, he thought he misjudged how much ammo he needed to knock the thing out of the plane, and then he died on the first disc. And then I was like on the second disc, and I forgot there was a hunter in there, and a hunter decapitated me when I was trying to help him traverse like this area because he forgot the fastest route. So I completely forgot there was a hunter in there. I went through the door, was helping him, and all I saw was like Chris getting his head lopped off. And that was like our first time of really trying to speedrun the game, and we just kind of looked at each other like, really? Just really? Really, dude? Okay. I guess that's what it is then. Anyway, yeah, that's about it for this video. A small other update from me. I will be intermittent with my content over the next week or so. A friend of mine is actually coming from Seattle, and I'm going to be showing them around London. That isn't to say that there won't be content. There's a couple of reviews and stuff that might be popping up over the next couple of days as well. I got absolutely like inundated with reviews. So I've got all of the results. I'm just doing the editing now. So that's going to kind of come up. There's actually a PC behind me, which is an Overclockers UK machine. That is not a sponsored video, by the way. It is literally the last thing that I'm testing before I leave. So I've done all of the internal shots and stuff like that. And so I'm going to be more assessing the build quality. It's not a sponsored video, just saying. So I will be basically continuing after that as normal. And I will most likely be heading to Seattle again this year, where I will once again be working. And I'll probably fill you in on that in a vlog. Because I've been to Seattle a couple of times before for viewers who are new. And I actually met some viewers in Seattle. So if you are interested in meeting me while I'm there, you can do. It's not like it's a big deal. You can just email me at paul@redgamingtech.com. I'm not sure of the dates yet. But yeah, it would be like until early January if I jump on the plane. So with all of that said, I'll see you soon. Take care. Bye for now.